Hello, and welcome to SciShow Talk Show, that day on SciShow where we talk to interesting people about interesting stuff. Today we're talking to Dr. Genevieve Lind, a Science and Technology Fellow at the American Association for the Advancement of Science.
Hello.
And first, congratulations, because that sounds like it's a fairly new job.
Yes, just starting in a few weeks.
Okay, great. And second, before we get into what that is, I want to talk about your research. So what you've been doing for the past, I don't know how long time, trying to figure out how drugs affect cells, the brain, and et cetera. And I don't understand, so I need you to explain it to me.
Okay. So I'm a neuroscientist.
Yeah.
I have a PhD in neuroscience. I haven't been a scientist for that long. My undergraduate degree is actually in communication studies.
Oh, cool. That's a cool shift.
And it wasn't really on purpose. I got my degree.
One day you were doing communications and then suddenly you were like, I'm going to try and put one of these embryonic stem cell kidney cells into a petri dish and see if I can do some electropharmacology on it.
No. I thought I wanted to be a doctor for a little while after undergrad, so I went back and started taking post-bac science classes and wiggled my way into the lab and fell in love with the actual doing of science and realized I probably never wanted to be a doctor in the first place. I just needed to find science.
But it's also it's always good to have, a background in multiple things. So having a background in communication can be surprisingly helpful with both in like actual just everyday work, but also who knows what else in your career.
It's true. Communicating is important.
It is totally. What did you spend your PhD doing?
So I am a molecular pharmacologist. So I study interactions between drugs and proteins in the brain at the molecular level.
Like most drugs affect proteins. Like this kind of like like one way or another binding to things, activating stuff. But a lot of times we don't know exactly how that works. And when you say at the molecular level, you're like seeing how that's functioning.
So I collaborate with people who look at that level, and then I do sort of the functional analysis of those interactions. So we work with another lab at the university, and we got crystal structures of the proteins, so we could actually see sort of where they were interacting.
So with the proteins that are binded to the
and the particular protein is a neurotransmitter receptor that I'm looking at.
Which one is it?
It's the NMDA receptor.
I don't know.
N-methyl-d-aspartate.
Okay. What does it do?
So it is one of the receptors for glutamate.
Okay.
And glutamate does a lot of things, but one of the most important things, maybe I shouldn't say that because other scientists will be offended.
It's one of.
One of many things.
You didn't say which one wasn't important.
No, they're all important.
Okay.
It is the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in the brain. So it's regulating kind of the on switch for everything.
For lots of different things.
For all kinds of things. And so, as you can imagine,
that's important.
It's important. And then dysfunction, either in the too active or the not active enough direction, is associated with all kinds of disease states.
Okay. And so how do you... Did you use the term electropharmacology?
Electrophysiologist is the tool that I use.
Okay. Tell me about that, because I have no idea.
So I use the electrical signaling properties as a tool to measure activation of proteins.
So you can see when something's being activated.
So when the proteins are activated, they allow ions to flow in, and that ion movement can be measured as a current.
Okay. So you're knowing when the thing is happening?
Yes.
And in what way is this thing happening? Like, are you like cutting people's brains open? No, I imagine.
No. We use model organisms. I've used mouse brain slices. I've used frog eggs, which a frog egg is just a really sort of large individual cell. You can inject an RNA into that cell, and that frog egg will use the cellular machinery and produce that protein.
Right.
And then you can apply the activating compound and the drug at the same time to see if there's a difference when drug is absent or present.
So you're talking about, like, is that RNA basically coding for a human gene then?
Yes.
Inside of that frog?
Yes.
That's really
and
cool.
So that RNA is coding for the NMDA receptor that I studied.
So there's just a bunch of receptors floating around in a frog egg.
Yeah. And then they actually inject them into the membrane so that you can study them on the surface like they would be on the surface.
You mean the cell is doing that?
Yeah.
Wow. So like
As a they.
the receptor just shows up on the cell surface.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah, we
Life
sort
is
of
so weird. It's all just chemistry. Jeez. You just like tell it.
Yep. Yeah.
And this is sort of like the early stages of drug development then. When you're doing crystallography, you're seeing whether these things are active and, affecting.
Exactly. So I'm trying to figure out what is sort of determining how that drug interacts with the protein so that we can then make modifications to the drug to make drugs that are more effective or have fewer side effects because they don't bind to other proteins. So it's very, very early on in the stages, and a lot of the drugs will never make it that far, but it's part of the process.
Ultimately, a lot of drug development is pretty like scattershot, like try a lot of different molecules. And are you then working with different variations on the same molecule? Exactly,
yeah. So we also collaborate with a medicinal chemist who just sticks a bunch of different things on this sort of same base structure, and then I screen them all first in the frog eggs and then move to a little bit more complex of a system in the kidney cells, and then ultimately into brain slices and through the rest of the process.
Mouse brain slices, and then finally it's a pill that
somebody
takes. Put your head inside of the current measuring thing and be like, look, all my good receptors, they're getting.
See what happens.
Yeah. That's how we used to do it.
Yes.
That's great. And then you after your PhD, you took a year off to do what? So
I served in AmeriCorps. If you don't know what AmeriCorps is, it's similar to the Peace Corps, except in America.
Except here.
And I was in the VISTA program, which is Volunteer in Service to America. And all of the VISTA programs are in some way intended to alleviate poverty. And so the program I was in was through economic development. And I was at an entrepreneurship training center.
Cool. So you were helping train people to do entrepreneurship, or you were being trained?
A little bit of both, because I was not an entrepreneur before I started there. But sort of learning the principles and then developing programs and initiatives that sort of target those programs to underrepresented groups and in terms of the economic development aspect of it.
Cool. And then you are now taking this thing with the AAAS.
Yes.
Which is cool. You'll be working at the National Institutes of Health?
Correct. Yes, cool. I will be at the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute.
Good. I guess all those things are pretty connected to each other. The heart, the lung, and the blood.
And the blood. Yeah. And I will be in the Office of Translational Alliances and Coordination, which is just a bunch of words.
Yeah. So you're coordinating some translational alliances.
Yes, exactly.
I have no idea.
OTAC, we can call it OTAC. And at OTAC, we help scientists facilitate translation of their research from the lab into the marketplace.
Okay. So you're going to be working on that.
Yes. And
I've always and I am not 100% on how that works, because of course, a lot of, even most of the research gets done at the university level, but of course, universities don't tend to sell drugs. So there has to be some kind of relationship between when you're doing the research and then ultimately have people who are manufacturing and selling drugs. No idea how that, and that's something that I was a biochemist and I worked on pharmaceuticals in college, and I just I don't even know how that process works.
Yeah, I didn't know really either, and I still don't know much about it, and that's kind of one of the really awesome things about the fellowship is that it takes scientists and just throws them feet first into the policy process and the policy world, so you can learn how all of that works and then hopefully be a resource in that process.
So a lot of this has to do with policy, in terms of government policy?
Correct. Yeah, so the Science and Technology Policy Fellowship program takes scientists and works with all of the different federal agencies. So when I was there for interviews, I interviewed with the Department of Defense, with the State Department, with the National Institutes of Health, with the U.S. Agency for International Development. So it takes scientists and puts them in all of these federal offices so they can be experts as well as learn about the process.
That's great.
Yeah.
It sounds like a pretty smart way to do it, honestly.
I think so.
Well, you'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, that's exciting, and congratulations. I want you to come back in a couple of years and tell us all how it went.
I will.
And I really want to know more functionally about how that operates.
Yeah, and then I'll actually know
Right.
be able to answer questions about how it works.
But thank you for answering questions about how you turn a frog egg into a pharmaceutical model.
Of course.
That's very cool. So thanks for that. And I think we're going to now get to hang out with something maybe a little bit quotidian, one might say. Like maybe you've seen these around in one form or another, but I think we don't celebrate them enough.
Uh-oh.
So we'll find out. Hello there.
Hey guys.
Hi.
What? My experience with chickens is mostly them running away from me. Like, it's not like they usually want to hang out.
Yeah, I mean, you do have eyes on the front of your head, so you're a predator.
Like, you look, well, of the things I've eaten, the majority have been chickens.
You are a predator
So
of, they know. This is Goldie. She is a Buff Orpington. She's a full-grown chicken. She's about 2 years old. And I'm just going to kind of let her do what she wants to do.
Remarkably well-behaved?
You know, she just came into the world like this, really. Seriously.
Yeah?
Like, we have a flock of chickens, and a lot of them are nope on the humans. And she's like, you're not so bad.
You're not so bad.
She's curious and calm, and yeah.
You don't tell her about the teriyaki you had for lunch? Like I just
You're
did?
assuming I eat chicken.
Do you not?
Rarely.
Oh. I'm not going to tell you about the teriyaki I had for lunch. You're a beautiful bird.
She's not paying attention to you. She's looking at her feet.
How old is this bird?
She's about 2 years old.
And is it a layer or a fooder?
She is a layer. So these guys, well, I guess some people eat them. They're not huge. Like, I know that's what most humans are like. Okay, I see a domestic chicken. Are they for eggs or are they meat chickens?
Yeah.
And yes, you can put her on her back. She doesn't. Not so much her head. She's like, I'm gonna eat your ring. So these guys are bred to lay eggs, and so they're fairly good egg layers. They lay about 3 to 5 a week.
I mean, that's a lot.
The average chicken lays 300 eggs a year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of eggs.
That's a ton of eggs. Yeah. And they all. Do you know the history of chickens? Like how we got them? Do you know?
I have some sense that they were some kind of, bird.
Definitely originated from a bird.
Yes.
They're actually, I mean, they are descendants of dinosaurs.
Sure. Look at the legs.
Right? These guys are modern day dinosaurs, and they're the first animal to actually be like DNA sequenced. So they are very closely related to a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But our domestic chicken came from the red jungle fowl over in Asia. And
they're sort of like jumpy tree birds.
Pheasants, pheasant-like with pretty more. Some pheasants are very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
But they had more red on them. The roosters were more colorful than the females. And originally, it wasn't for food. It wasn't for meat or for eggs. Can you guess what chickens were brought into captivity to do for humans?
Pest control.
Oh, that's a good one, but it's not it.
That was my first thought too. Because
humans are pretty terrible with why they domesticate animals. It's like for food,
entertainment.
Right?
For entertainment.
Oh, for fights. Is it fights?
Yes. Wow. Yes, fighting. Because they grow huge spurs on their back legs, and the males, they would just in the wilds, they territorial and try and impress the ladies, and so that's why they were originally domesticated, and then they're like, oh, they are tasty to eat.
Yeah,
and then they started breeding them for consistent egg laying. So they had a seasonal. Does anyone want to hold Goldie?
I'll hold Goldie.
Yeah.
Are all chickens this big?
No.
Okay. Ooh, big wing.
Isn't that a big stretch in that wing? Or are you just comfortable with that out like that? Like, I'll just sit there.
Don't try to fly away.
There you go. So talking about flying, like she's not a big flyer, and chickens in general are not big flyers. And a lot of people are like, think chickens can't fly. They can. The record was for 13 seconds, about 300 feet.
I don't know if that.
They can make it up into a tree. They could go over a fence. If they try really hard.
They can jump higher than they otherwise would be able to.
They can jump. They can jump pretty high. But yeah, if they flap really hard, they can make it over a fence.
That's nice. That's a good skill to have.
Yeah, I mean, they remind me a lot of turkeys as well. Wild turkeys, they're just big, heavy-bodied animals, and they're not like meant to.
But if they really need to get away from a wolf, they can.
They could fly into a tree.
Fly into a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can run. They can't run as fast as humans, but they can run to get a good running start.
But they're also very agile. That's what I've noticed about chasing a chicken is that it can be very. Did you?
How are you doing? I'm good. I didn't do anything.
I felt like Jessi was about to catch a poop. Is what that looked like to me.
It was she was
a poop shake.
She was doing a little squatty.
Oh, you can tell.
Oh.
Yeah.
I watched that happen. That is not what I expected that to look like.
No.
It smells bad. I really wanted to poop on the couch.
That is a turd.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Good work, Goldie. Whew,
I was like, are you laying an egg right now?
It's aromatic.
This is the best moment of SciShow talk show we've ever had. It smells like a poop.
Terrible description.
No, but like it really does. It just smells like poop.
Just poop.
Yeah, I thought it would
like
smell
a farm.
more like well, I thought it would smell more like a farm. That smells to me a lot like just like a human fart, but with more ammonia.
Well, maybe if you're eating chicken, your farts smell like chicken.
Well, I am eating chicken. Wow.
Oh.
So is that the same hole that the eggs come out of?
Yeah, it's called a cloaca. So everything comes out of the same. Here, you get comfy. You want to be on? Okay.
Thanks for cooling me down, though.
Yep, there you go. So chickens are used for entertainment. They're used for food. They're used as pets. And they're also used in medical research. And one of the reasons, there's a couple reasons. One is they're vertebrates, and so they develop their nervous system very much like ours. And so they can test that. But they lay hard eggs, and they're super hardy. And so they could actually take, where are you going to go? You can take part of the shell off and put a plastic covering over it, and you can watch the embryo develop and you can make manipulations along the way.
Well,
and so
I've seen videos of this.
Really interesting,
And
weird,
sad. A little sad.
Sad. We've learned a ton from chickens over the years, and you were talking about that you use frog eggs. And what's the reason that you use frog eggs?
Because they're big enough to see, but just a single cell.
And permeable, and like, do you stick them with needles and stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you get a frog egg?
Frog egg company.
Yeah.
There's people so some labs actually have frogs that they go do the whole process, and then there's companies that you can buy them in different stages of processed. Pay more money for a more processed egg.
A value add. Yeah.
Interesting. Would you like to hold her?
Sure. I yes. I don't know. Just let feet on
Go
hands.
up a little bit.
Okay. You gonna come up onto me? Hi. You're man. She's heavy,
Isn't she?
Yeah.
She does.
Hi, sweetie.
Have you ever held a chicken before? Like this?
I never held, not on my hands.
Yeah.
Like perched.
Yeah.
What are you like? I don't know, like more than 5 pounds.
Yeah, I'd say between, like about 7, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big bird.
5 to 7 pounds.
Most birds are very
Super
light.
heavy-bodied.
Yeah, birds are usually very light.
Well, also, we have genetically modified these guys to,
Bred
be
them
the
to
way
be
that we
beefy.
want them to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the red jungle fowl, they're much slenderer. They look a lot like a pheasant
Right.
crossed with a male chicken. So
Sorry.
you go, she's like, I might want to step down.
I don't want to
now.
give you a hard time.
Do you want to step down onto the table? Okay.
I'm a chicken.
There she goes.
Ultimately, I'm still a chicken.
There she goes. I love how many studies that they've done on them.
We need to know lots about chickens, man.
Yeah, like
They're around. We know how to breed them, but also they're economically important. Are you gonna have some of my
do you
water?
mind?
Oh, not at all. Yeah, cool off.
it's warm in here.
I'm happy to share.
So these guys, when they drink water, they can't suck water like we do with our lips. They can't do that. And one of the few birds that can do that is a pigeon. They'll actually stick their half their face in it and just suck it up. But these guys actually have to. They try and get it into the bottom part of their mandible, and then they tip their head back, and it goes down. Yeah, so to drink water, they have to be able to scoop it. If it's too shallow, they won't be able to drink it.
I'm so glad that worked out for you.
And she has her little comb and her wattle, and the hens can have those as well as roosters.
Do they help with heat regulation or?
It's mostly for like sexual selection. So like, the males will do this little thing where they will pick up a piece of food and then drop it while they're talking and kind of wiggling around at the same time. And so their wattle is like, hey, look at me, I'm moving around. And it catches the girl's attention.
Sure, of
course.
course.
She'll be like, all right. But she isn't exclusive, so she'll mate with many males. And this is a weird thing. If afterwards they're like, nah, I didn't like you that much, I don't want you to be the dad of my babies, she can just, and like, get rid of his gift.
There seem to be plenty of physiological systems for expelling things from the cloaca. I watched it occur.
So you can imagine, how it happens.
How that would work.
But the other thing is that these guys are super vocal. I mean, she's saying some bark, bark, barks.
Yeah. They got a lot of different things that they say.
They have tuk, tuk, tuks where they're like, look, I got food. They've got like their sexy talk, and then they have their alarm calls. They actually have different alarm calls for different predators. So like sky, land, different predators. And they'll actually talk to their babies inside their eggs. So while they're sitting there brooding on their little eggs, they'll be talking.
They got like a special
soothing, a soothing talk, and then that you can, if you listen closer, you can hear the little babies peeking back. Thanks, Mom.
Ugh, that's very cute.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
What's she saying now?
I think it's just more of a general like, are we okay?
Yeah.
Like, this is weird. But none of them are alarm calls, and yeah, you're just talking. You're okay. You're such a good girl. Yeah, you are.
Goldie, thank you for coming on the show and for providing eggs for Jessi and family. I'm really glad that we could share a drink together. Jessi has an exotic animal rescue organization that has a YouTube channel where you can see how you take care of all of your, hundreds of animals.
We have, over 90. Goldie's one.
Over 90 species, but definitely over 100 animals.
Yes.
Genevieve, thank you as well for joining us and informing us and teaching us so many things. Goldie, don't jump off of the table, please. And also don't poop anymore. You couldn't possibly have more poop in you right now.
She could.
Okay, she could. And thank you for listening and for hanging out. And if you want to learn more about just the whole world, you can go to youtube.com/SciShow to subscribe.